Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking all about rapid business growth. And to guide us through this, we're going to be picking the brain of Alex Hormozi.
Yeah. Alex Hormozi, an entrepreneur who has built not one, not two, but three companies that each generated over $1 million per month in revenue.
In their first year.
Within their first year.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So no matter where you are on your journey,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're just starting out or you're already running a successful business and just looking to kind of scale things up, we think that these principles from Alex Hormozi are going to provide some serious value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the first thing that Hormozi really emphasizes is this idea that nobody knows you exist, which can be a little bit of a harsh reality.
Yeah, it's kind of a punch in the gut if you're not quite there yet.
But I think it's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And he says that if your revenue is under $1 million, it's a safe bet to assume that most people haven't heard of you.
Yeah, and he doesn't mince words about it either.
No, he doesn't mince words about it.
He recommends spending the first 4 hours of each day entirely on visibility.
Yeah. Think about that. Just take a moment and think about that.
That's your first 4 hours.
What could you accomplish in 4 hours of focused time
Yeah.
on outreach, content creation, advertising? I mean, the list goes on.
He is a big fan of advertising in particular because advertising done right can create a boom for your business.
Now, I like how he uses the example of a local dry cleaner to kind of illustrate the point
Okay.
about market share.
Yeah.
Because when you're a local business, sometimes you think of it as like, oh, there's only so many customers in this town.
Right.
And if a competitor opens up, they're taking my share.
Mm.
But he argues that that's actually a flawed way of thinking about it.
Right. It is, because think about it. You're not just competing on one platform or with one type of content. There's a whole world of potential customers out there on various social media channels, different types of content, different niche markets.
So rather than looking at it through this kind of lens of scarcity, it's important to zoom out and see the abundance.
The abundance of opportunity.
Opportunity that's out there.
And tapping into even a tiny fraction of that market can lead to really impressive profitability.
Okay, so let's move on to his next principle for dealing with competition.
Okay.
And get this, he actually draws inspiration from Eminem.
Eminem, the rapper.
The rapper, yeah.
There you go.
And he highlights two key strategies that Eminem has used to deal with haters, which I love this.
Yeah, this is great.
Because I think it's so applicable to business as well.
It is.
What are those two strategies?
Okay, so the first one is become so successful that the competition becomes irrelevant. It's like rising above the noise and letting your results do the talking for you.
Yeah, the classic, the best revenge is massive success.
Exactly.
What's the second Eminem strategy?
This one is to kill them with kindness.
Okay.
So he uses this example from 8 Mile, where Eminem kind of preemptively owns his flaws, leaving his opponent with nothing to attack.
It disarms them.
It totally disarms them.
So in a business context, this would translate to addressing potential criticisms head on.
Yeah.
And kind of disarming that negativity with positivity. So instead of getting defensive, you kind of own your imperfections and focus on building a brand that's built on authenticity and goodwill.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Now, shifting gears a bit, another one of the principles that Hormozi emphasizes is that clarity trumps cleverness.
Clarity trumps cleverness.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
I'm all about, keeping it simple, stupid. I love that acronym.
It's a classic.
So are we basically just saying dumb it down for the masses?
Not necessarily dumb it down, but make complex ideas accessible without sacrificing the depth.
Oh, I like that.
So think about it this way. Could you explain your business model to a third grader in a way that they would understand?
Ooh, that's a good litmus test.
Yeah.
Now, why is clarity so important?
Okay, well, clarity is important because complexity creates friction. The more difficult it is for someone to understand your offer, the less likely they are to engage with it.
Right, because they just get kind of bogged down in the complexity of it all.
Totally.
So by simplifying our language, we're actually removing barriers and making it easier for people to grasp the value that we bring.
And speaking of value, let's talk about proof over promise.
I mean, we all know the feeling, right, of being bombarded with all these marketing promises.
Yeah, if it's in 5 days, it's going to change your life.
This is the best thing since sliced bread.
Totally.
And so Hormozi argues that in a world that's saturated with these types of claims, proof is really what persuades.
Yeah, it cuts through the noise.
And so he stresses the importance of building a strong foundation of testimonials, reviews, and case studies.
Yes.
And he uses this really brilliant example to illustrate the point. Imagine two businesses that are selling similar products.
Right.
One business makes a bunch of these grand promises but has very few reviews. The other business maybe doesn't make as many, loud claims, but has tons of positive reviews and a proven track record.
Yeah.
Which one are you more likely to choose?
The one with the proof. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's an easy choice. Proof builds trust and credibility, which are crucial in converting those potential customers into actual buyers.
Right. And it ties back to show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Anyone can make claims, but backing them up with real concrete evidence is what really matters.
Now, to really hook someone's attention, you need a powerful hook.
You need that hook.
And so what is the hook and why is it so important?
So the hook is essentially that element that captures attention and makes someone want to learn more. And Hormozi's hook formula is proof, promise, plan.
Okay.
So you start with the proof.
Establish credibility.
To establish that credibility, then you make a compelling promise, and then you outline a plan on how you're going to deliver on that promise.
Okay, so you're creating this clear path for the audience to follow.
Yes, and think about this quote by David Ogilvy, the advertising legend. He said, "On the average, 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy."
Ooh, that's interesting.
So nailing that initial hook is absolutely critical.
It's so important.
And to really demonstrate the power of the hook, Hormozi shares a case study where he was able to achieve a 19-fold increase in video views simply by refining the hook in the first few seconds.
Wow, 19-fold.
19, that's incredible.
Just by refining the hook.
So you got to make those first few seconds count.
They're so important.
Okay, so let's say you've hooked your audience.
You got them.
Now what?
Now you unleash the power of more.
Oh, the power of more. Okay, tell me about this.
This principle is all about scaling what's already working rather than chasing shiny objects.
So it's about resisting that urge to constantly reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
And instead focus on maximizing the impact of what's already generating results.
Yes, maximize those results.
For instance, Hormozi shares an anecdote about sending out 150,000 flyers.
Which may sound kind of tedious in this digital age.
Right.
But it underscores the power of volume.
Yes.
And
you got to put in the reps.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeves and do the work.
Yeah, and so often what we perceive as limitations are really just mental barriers. We tell ourselves we can't do more, but often pushing past those self-imposed limits is exactly what's needed to really unlock that exponential growth.
I love this principle of more because sometimes I think we get so caught up in trying to be clever or innovative that we forget that sometimes the most effective approach is to simply just do more of what's already working. Now let's talk about a double-edged sword, word of mouth.
Okay, word of mouth.
The word-of-mouth marketing is incredibly powerful. But why is it a double-edged sword?
Because a negative word of mouth spreads much faster.
Really?
And has a far greater impact than positive feedback.
Why do you think that is?
Well, think about it when you have a fantastic experience. You might tell a few friends about it. But if you have a really bad experience, you're going to tell everybody.
Yeah, you're going to warn everyone.
You're going to go on Yelp. You're going to leave a bad review. You're going to tell your family and friends.
You're going to tell the cashier of the grocery store.
Exactly.
That's funny.
We're kind of hardwired to avoid those negative experiences.
Right.
So we're much more motivated to share those bad experiences as a way to protect others and ourselves.
Yeah, and to really kind of drive home this point, Hormozi cites a study by Disney that found it takes 37 positive experiences to outweigh just one single negative experience.
That's a lot of positive experiences.
That's a lot. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But it's really important to be mindful of that fact, that negative word of mouth carries a lot of weight.
It's powerful.
So how do we go about minimizing negative word of mouth?
Well, it's all about going above and beyond to ensure customer satisfaction. It's about exceeding expectations, delivering incredible customer service.
So proactively taking those steps to minimize the potential for those negative experiences.
Totally.
Now, this next principle I'm really intrigued by, steal from yourself.
Steal from yourself.
Which sounds a little bit shady.
A little counterintuitive.
Yes.
But it's not as nefarious as it sounds.
Okay.
What Hormozi means by this is leverage your own success. Replicate what's already working, and he advocates for this 70-20-10 rule for growth.
Okay, break down the 70-20-10 rule for us.
So 70% of your efforts should be focused on replicating your proven successes.
Oh, wow.
20% should be dedicated to iterating and improving upon those successes, and then the final 10% is for experimenting with brand new ideas.
So it's about prioritizing consistency and optimization over constantly trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yes, exactly.
And he tells a story about an advertising director who wasted a lot of time and resources trying to come up with entirely new concepts instead of simply leveraging the company's existing successful hooks, which again kind of ties back to that. Sometimes the most innovative thing you can do is just to do more of what's already working. And it ties back to this concept of destruction versus solution.
Okay.
So changing things up too drastically increases the risk of breaking what's already functioning well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the analogy of, demolishing a building.
Yeah.
It's much easier to destroy than to build. So sometimes refining and amplifying what's already there is actually the best path to growth.
It's about maximizing efficiency and effectiveness.
Absolutely. Now let's explore this fascinating concept of emotional versus logical buyers.
Emotional versus logical buyers.
I've heard this before, the idea that some people buy based on emotion while others are more driven by logic.
Right.
What's Hormozi's take on this?
Well, he challenges that traditional dichotomy, suggesting it's not so black and white.
Okay.
Instead, he proposes that there's a spectrum of information needs.
Okay, so rather than two distinct categories, there's a range of how much information people need before they feel comfortable making a decision.
Exactly. It's not just emotional or logical, it's a nuanced spectrum.
And he draws on the work of Eugene Schwartz, who outlines 5 levels of awareness.
5.
Unaware.
Okay.
Problem aware.
Got it.
Solution aware. Product aware.
Yes.
And most aware.
Okay, so 5 levels.
Can you give me some examples of how these different levels might play out in the real world?
Okay, let's say you're selling a sleep tracking device.
Right.
Someone who's unaware might not even know that sleep tracking is a thing.
Right.
Someone who's problem aware might be struggling with their sleep, but not realize that solutions like your device exist.
Oh, I see.
Solution aware might know about sleep trackers generally, but not be familiar with your specific product. Product aware is familiar with your product and is considering whether to buy it.
Gotcha.
And most aware is either already a customer or highly engaged prospect.
So they're ready to buy.
Yeah.
So how does this awareness spectrum apply to marketing?
Well, it's about tailoring your message to the specific level of awareness that your target audience is at.
Okay.
So you're trying to reach a broad audience.
Right.
You might focus on sparking curiosity and building awareness.
Right.
But as you move down that spectrum, you can provide more targeted information that speaks directly to their needs.
Gotcha. So it's not just about blasting out a single message.
Right.
It's about understanding your audience's journey and kind of meeting them where they are.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, to really kind of illustrate the point about balancing those short-term sales with long-term brand building, Hormozi shares a case study about New Balance.
Okay, I like New Balance.
Me too.
Who?
Big fan of their shoes. Tell me about this case study.
Okay, so when New Balance's CMO, Chris Davis, took over, he actually flipped their advertising budget allocation.
Interesting.
So they went from a 70-30 split favoring direct response to a 70-30 split favoring brand awareness.
Wow, that's a big change.
Yeah, so he prioritized building that long-term brand affinity over driving those immediate sales.
Which is a bold move.
It was a really bold move, and it took 18 months to see a return on that investment.
That's a long time.
That's a long time to wait.
To wait for those results.
But ultimately, it paid off big time.
So it shows that patience
Yes.
is key in the marketing world.
It's not always about those immediate wins.
Right.
Sometimes you got to play the long game.
Yeah. And it also highlights the power of storytelling and emotional connection. Because by focusing on building the brand,
Yeah.
New Balance was able to create a really loyal customer base
Yeah.
that connected with their values
Totally.
and their identity. So authenticity is key.
It's huge.
Now let's talk about marketing laws and the power of truth.
Marketing laws and the power of truth.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
This is one of my favorite parts.
Tell me more.
So Hormozi's #1 marketing law is state the facts and tell the truth.
Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but there's a lot of depth there.
What's the deeper meaning behind that?
It's about being authentic and building trust. Being honest and transparent actually creates a foundation of credibility that resonates with your audience.
Yeah.
He argues that it's far more effective to create a compelling reality than to try to exaggerate a mediocre one.
So it's about building something genuinely exceptional rather than trying to spin a narrative
Yeah.
that's not actually true.
And I love the example he uses.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about this episode from Mad Men,
Oh, Mad Men.
the show,
Great show.
where Don Draper is pitching a cigarette company
Okay.
who's struggling to differentiate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of inventing some flashy slogan, he actually digs into the manufacturing process and uncovers a unique selling point, which is that they toast their tobacco.
It's toasted.
It's toasted.
I remember that episode.
It's a classic.
It is a classic episode.
And it's such a good example of finding a genuine point of differentiation and using that to craft a compelling message without having to fabricate or exaggerate anything.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, and the truth is powerful.
And that kind of brings us to this next point. Target the right list.
Target the right list.
It's all about being laser-focused and intentional with your efforts.
Yeah.
Hormozi says that even if you have the absolute best product or service in the world, if you're not reaching the right people, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're spinning your wheels.
He uses a great example. He says, imagine trying to sell winter coats in Florida.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit of a mismatch
A
there.
little bit off, yeah.
So even the best marketing in the world can fail if you're not targeting the right audience.
If you're talking to the wrong people.
So how do we ensure that we're actually targeting the right list?
Okay, well, it depends on the marketing channel that you're using.
Right.
With outreach, it's about identifying those prospects who fit your ideal customer profile.
Okay.
With paid ads, it's about leveraging all those targeting capabilities to reach the right demographics and interests. And then with content marketing, it's really about understanding your audience's needs and creating content that resonates specifically with them.
So know your audience.
Know your audience, know your channels.
Know your channels. And to really kind of highlight how these seemingly small details can make a huge difference.
Yes.
Hormozi shares an anecdote about changing the image on a thank you page,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which drastically impacted response rates.
Okay. I'm all ears. Tell me about this.
So when Hormozi was running Gym Launch, he initially used a generic thank you page,
Okay.
and then he added a photo of himself, and it improved response rates a little bit.
Okay.
But when he replaced his photo with a photo of his female team member, Layla, the response rates skyrocketed.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's so interesting.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, it's just speculation, but it's likely that it tapped into the psychology of the target audience.
Right.
Which in this case was gym owners
Mm-hmm.
who might have been more receptive to a message that was coming from a woman,
Right. Potentially.
maybe perceiving it as, more approachable or relatable.
Yeah, it's a subtle psychological cues. They
Yeah.
can make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And that brings us to this next point. Masters have more ways to win.
Masters have more ways to win.
So what does it mean to have more ways to win in business?
Hormozi argues that true mastery involves understanding multiple metrics for measuring progress.
Okay.
He tells a story about an HR professional who challenged his understanding of talent acquisition.
Oh, tell me more.
Okay, so Hormozi was initially very focused on just basic metrics like, time to fill a role.
Right.
But this HR professional introduced him to a whole world of other metrics,
Interesting.
such as cost to acquire that talent two-sided fit, which is the alignment between the manager's and the employee's assessment of the fit,
Gotcha.
and employee satisfaction.
So it's about having a much more holistic view of success.
Yes.
And understanding all the various factors that contribute to it.
Exactly.
And it's not just about focusing on the end result.
Right.
It's about breaking down the process into those smaller milestones and tracking your progress along the way.
Yes, celebrating those small wins along the journey.
Now, speaking of success, Hormozi also highlights the difference between leading indicators and lagging indicators.
Oh, yes. This is huge.
So remind me, what's the difference?
Okay, so lagging indicators are measurements of past performance,
Oh,
like revenue or customer churn rate.
okay, so they tell you what's already happened.
Exactly. They're looking back.
Gotcha.
Leading indicators, on the other hand, are these predictive metrics that suggest what the future might hold.
Okay.
So they're looking forward.
So, for example, if you're trying to increase your sales,
Mm-hmm.
your lagging indicator would be your total sales revenue,
Right.
whereas a leading indicator might be the number of qualified leads that you're generating,
Exactly.
because that kind of gives you an indication of what those future sales might look like.
Exactly. It's about having your finger on the pulse of what's coming next.
So it's about looking ahead instead of just checking the rearview mirror.
Yes, you need to focus on where you're going and make adjustments based on your vision for the future.
That's a great point.
And building on that idea of measuring progress, remember those leading and lagging indicators we touched on earlier. They're crucial for gauging your strategy's effectiveness.
Right. Lagging indicators, they reflect past performance like revenue or customer churn. But those leading indicators, they're like peering into a crystal ball, giving us hints of what the future might hold.
Exactly. And mastering those leading indicators, that's what can give you a real advantage because they provide insight into whether your efforts are truly moving the needle in the right direction.
So it's not just about crunching numbers. It's about understanding what those numbers tell us about the future trajectory of our businesses.
Now, let's talk about how these principles can be tailored for different business models. Hormozi acknowledges that there are nuances in how you approach marketing, depending on whether you're a business-to-consumer B2C company or a business-to-business B2B company.
Makes sense. I mean, selling a trendy pair of sneakers probably requires a different approach than, say, selling complex software solutions to a large corporation.
Exactly. Hormozi points out that B2C marketing often leans heavily on emotional storytelling, building associations and even partnering with influencers or organizations that align with the brand's values.
So for a B2C company, it's about forging that emotional connection with the consumer, showing them how the product can enrich their lives or solve a problem they're facing.
Precisely. It's about tapping into those desires and aspirations, positioning the product as a vehicle to help them achieve those goals.
And what about B2B marketing? What are some of the key differences there?
B2B marketing often revolves around showcasing expertise, credibility, and delivering tangible results. Hormozi really emphasizes highlighting those aspirational outcomes that the business has either achieved for itself or helped other businesses attain.
So it's less about appealing to emotions and more about demonstrating a solid track record of success and expertise.
Exactly. It's about providing concrete evidence that you can deliver on your promises and equip your clients to achieve their business objectives.
Now, he mentions that case studies are particularly effective for B2B marketing. Why is that?
Because case studies offer those real-world examples of how your product or service has helped other businesses. They provide tangible proof points and really showcase your ability to solve specific challenges.
So it's not just about talking the talk. It's about walking the walk and showing the impact you've had on other businesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hormozi takes it a step further, suggesting that B2B businesses should also focus on providing valuable free content and resources, as a way to demonstrate expertise and build trust.
I like that. It's kind of like that old saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. By sharing valuable insights and resources, you position yourself as a thought leader in your industry, and you build credibility over time.
It's about creating a long-term strategy that focuses on building those relationships and showcasing your value consistently.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another critical point, the importance of maintaining that long-term perspective and resisting the allure of those quick wins or short-term gains.
It seems like a recurring theme with Hormozi. True success, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
You're absolutely right. And he uses a really powerful analogy to illustrate this point. He talks about the difference between digging a well and simply drawing water from an existing one.
Okay, I love a good analogy. Unpack that one for me.
He argues that many businesses, especially those driven by the pressure of quarterly earnings, are too quick to draw water from that existing well without investing the time and effort in digging new ones.
So they're focused on extracting value from their current resources rather than putting in the work to cultivate future growth and sustainability.
Precisely. And while this approach might yield some short-term results, it ultimately leads to stagnation.
It's like depleting your reserves without replenishing them. Eventually, you're going to hit a wall.
Exactly. Hormozi advocates for a more balanced approach, one that focuses on harvesting existing value while simultaneously investing in new growth opportunities.
It's about playing the long game, making decisions that will position your business for success, not just today, but years down the road.
And this ties back into the principles of more and steal from yourself. It's about constantly refining and amplifying what's working while also exploring and investing in new avenues for growth.
So finding that sweet spot between optimization and innovation.
You got it. Now let's wrap things up with some final nuggets of wisdom from Hormozi. He shares some of his personal marketing laws that I think are incredibly insightful.
Okay, I'm all ears. Share those marketing gems with us.
All right, so the first one, as we've already discussed, is to state the facts and tell the truth. The second is to showcase what only you can offer.
So finding those unique elements that differentiate you from the competition.
Precisely. And the third law is to communicate in a way that only you can. This goes back to the concept of clarity and avoiding jargon.
So crafting a message that's authentic to you, clear, and resonates with your target audience.
You got it. Hormozi emphasizes that you don't have to be the absolute best in the world. You just need to be the best in your specific niche or market. He calls it being the best in a puddle.
I love that. It's a great reminder that You don't have to be everything to everyone. You just need to excel in your chosen area of expertise.
And he tells this really interesting story about John D. Rockefeller, who was willing to pay a premium for a business simply because it allowed him to claim the title of biggest in his industry.
Well, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
But I guess it paid off for him in the long run.
Absolutely. By securing that title, Rockefeller gained a strategic advantage and solidified his position as a leader in the market.
It's a reminder that sometimes you have to make those bold investments to achieve your goals.
And it underscores the power of perception and branding. Sometimes the story you tell can be just as impactful as the reality behind it.
This has been an incredible deep dive. Hormozi's insights are so practical and thought-provoking. What are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should walk away with?
I think it boils down to focusing on those fundamentals. Building a strong foundation of proof, crafting a clear and compelling message, understanding your target audience, and taking consistent action.
And embracing that long-term perspective, instead of getting caught up in chasing those quick fixes or shiny objects.
Absolutely. Hormozi's philosophy centers on building a sustainable business that can thrive over time.
It's about being authentic, owning your imperfections, and prioritizing those genuine connections with your audience.
He's a fantastic example of someone who has achieved incredible success by sticking to the fundamentals and delivering consistent value.
I'm feeling so inspired after this deep dive. I'm ready to put these principles into action in my own business.
Me too. I think there's something here for everyone, regardless of their industry or career stage.
Absolutely. Before we move on to part 3, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question inspired by Hormozi's insights. What's one area where you could apply the more principle to see significant growth?
That's a fantastic question. It could be anything from increasing your outreach efforts, creating more content, or simply amplifying what's already working for you.
The key is to identify those areas where you're already seeing success and double down on your efforts.
Exactly. Sometimes the most effective strategy is simply doing more of what's already producing results.
And we are back for the final part of our Alex Hormozi deep dive.
I feel like we could talk about his work for hours.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I know we've covered so much ground already, but there's still so much more to unpack.
I agree. It's like every time you delve into his insights, you discover another layer of practical wisdom that can be applied to so many different areas.
You know, one of the things that I really appreciate about Hormozi's approach is that it's not about, trying to find some magic shortcut or get-rich-quick scheme. It's really about those timeless principles that have consistently driven success for him and for countless other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, he's all about putting in the work and building a solid foundation for long-term sustainable growth.
And I think what's even more impressive is just his generosity in sharing this knowledge.
Yeah.
He's constantly putting out valuable content through his books, his courses,
his YouTube channel.
I mean, so much of it is even free,
yeah,
which is incredible. He truly believes in empowering others.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that generosity, is actually a big part of what makes him so successful.
I agree.
It's understanding that by providing value to others, you ultimately create more value for yourself.
It's that abundance mindset we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
When you approach business with that belief in unlimited possibilities, you're much more likely to attract success.
And it's also about building a community.
Yeah.
And supporting each other on the journey. It's not just about, Hormozi building his own business. It's about him really creating this movement of entrepreneurs who are passionate about growth and making a positive impact in the world.
It's inspiring to see someone who's achieved such a high level of success while also remaining grounded and committed to helping others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to revisit one of Hormozi's core principles.
Okay.
Nobody knows you exist.
Right. It's such a powerful realization, even though it's kind of humbling at first.
Yeah. It's a bit of a punch in the gut.
It is.
It's important to acknowledge it.
It is. And until you reach a certain level of visibility, it's really up to you to put yourself out there and make sure that people know who you are and what you offer.
And it ties back to that concept of spending the first 4 hours of your day focused on boosting your visibility.
Exactly.
So whether it's outreach, content creation, advertising, those focused hours can make all the difference in getting your message in front of the right people.
Yeah, it's about taking ownership of your own success.
Yeah.
And not waiting for opportunities to just kind of fall into your lap.
And remember, Hormozi isn't just talking about reaching any audience.
Right.
It's about targeting the right list.
The right list.
Those people who are most likely to resonate with your message and become loyal customers.
And this is where understanding that awareness spectrum comes in.
Yeah.
Tailoring your message to meet your audience where they are in their journey.
Right. Are they unaware of the problem that you solve?
Right.
Are they aware of the problem, but maybe not the solution? Really understanding their level of awareness is going to help you craft a message that really connects.
It's all about meeting them where they're at.
And once you've got their attention, it's about providing proof.
Yeah.
Not just making promises.
Exactly.
So testimonials, reviews, case studies.
Yes.
These are the building blocks of trust.
Yes, they build that credibility.
And credibility.
Yeah.
Show them that you can deliver on your claims.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to steal from yourself.
Steal from yourself.
Replicate what's already working.
Exactly.
70% of your effort on those proven strategies.
20% on refining and improving those.
Yeah.
And just 10% on testing out those new ideas.
Yeah, finding that balance between consistency and innovation.
Yes.
And remember, even if you're not the biggest player in the game, you can still be the best in a puddle.
I love that analogy.
Find your niche, excel in that space, and build a reputation for being the go-to expert in your field. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for coaching business growth.
Me too. I'm feeling really inspired by all of these practical and actionable principles.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
What's one small step that you can take today to implement one of Hormozi's principles?
Yeah, it could be as simple as sending one outreach email, or creating one piece of content, or even just spending 30 minutes brainstorming how you can steal from yourself.
Yeah, the key is to just take action and build momentum. Small steps taken consistently can lead to incredible results.
Absolutely.
So get out there and make it happen.
Go for it.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new topic.
Yeah.
But until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those boundaries.
See you next time.